This will be a great wrestling podcast, and you can believe in that.
I knew he was going to do it. I knew.
This is OT3.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to OT3. I'm Anthony. He's Matt. And, of course, we got Paul. What's going on tonight, gentlemen?
Hey, guys. I'm anxious to hear this breakdown of the last Raw. I actually caught some of it, so...
It was pretty interesting, man. Pretty interesting.
Go ahead.
Woo!
I knew you had something. You were like chomping at the bit over there. I was waiting for what you were going to do today.
Little salute to Ric Flair.
All right, so before we move into Raw, like Paul said, which was a huge thing, and in my opinion was the best part of WrestleMania weekend, let's just touch on NXT Takeover for a couple minutes. The big thing I want to touch on and take away from was Nakamura's debut. I mean, you talk about awesome debut, awesome match. I mean, him and Sami Zayn put on one of the best matches I've seen, and probably it's going to stand to be, I think, the best match of the year, even though we're still early in the year. You know, we're still in the first half. It was easily the best match of WrestleMania weekend. We'll touch on what I think was the second, besides the Mania matches that we already covered. Just an awesome debut. Entrance was great. The fans loved it. A lot of interaction. It's just showing why NXT is becoming this huge deal now, and why it's it's becoming its own thing. It's not like, oh, it's just for the younger guys and the development guys. It's becoming a third brand that people want to go to. They're not even looking to go to the main roster. They just want to be there. And after you look at Takeover and Mania, it's almost like, yeah, you know what? Takeover was probably the better show of the two. So, Matt, what did you think about Nakamura?
Oh my God, where do you begin? From the entrance down to the first time him and Sami went at it. He does a little thing like this. I mean, just what he has in the ring, what he's bringing, it's just incredible. And honestly, I don't see him on NXT lasting there the rest of the year. I think he's the kind of guy, even though with the language barrier, he's the kind of guy who could hold a world title, I think, on the main event. I think with the way he acts in the ring, I guarantee, I'm sure he's going to have to get some English going on or whatnot, but, I'm sure he can cut great promos. Maybe give him like Funaki as his manager or something cool like that. But
Indeed.
But the thing I like the most is one of our buddies in the chat right now, James, told me that in Japan they actually will hit you in the face, which is one of the reasons why he wears the mouth guard. And it seems like he may have a hard time breaking that off, because it seems like he was smacking Sami around a little bit, and you saw Zayn caught him with an elbow that made him bleed a little bit. So it seems like he's the king of strong style. It seems like he's gonna bring some styles, and some of the moves he was putting on were just incredible. They weren't flashy, but they did enough to where you're like, whoa, like I think he just killed Zayn, with the where Zayn did a little drunken corner collapse, almost like a little Ric Flair thing. I mean, just
highlight of the night.
I mean, it was just incredible, and the finishing move he does is just ridiculous. And like you said when we were watching it, the first head kick, where Zayn ducked, he connects with that. Sami's probably dead. We're talking
asleep,
about
man.
We're talking about the funeral of Sami Zayn right now. So I mean, it was just an incredible match. It sucks for Sami that he was fighting him his first match, because you knew Sami probably wasn't going to end up winning this match. But the show of respect afterwards, shaking hands and everything. You see Zayn was thinking, should I really? But, the show of respect. And you've seen some of the live shows this past week, he's been wrestling with Finn Balor, actually. So, I mean, it's, he's already up there with the main event guy himself. So, I mean, it was an incredible debut. Probably one for the record books, I think, and not even in NXT, but in WWE itself. It's probably the best NXT debut, but in terms of WWE, you could put it up there with some of the top debut matches, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. To touch a little more on, like how you said about Zayn, I think that if you're going to do a send-off and the guy's not going to win, you couldn't have put him in a better match. Like you said, the show of respect. You could see the fans, chanting "Thank you, Sami," and "Thank you, Zayn." It was a huge deal for them, and to put him in that kind of match, I'm sure Zayn, it stinks that he goes out, with a loss as a fan watching, but to face Nakamura in his debut here in America was a huge deal, I'm sure, to him, and that was probably a big honor for Sami Zayn to have that match there at NXT in front of that crowd. And he definitely did a lot down there, and I think you're starting to see with Nakamura coming in, all of this influx of new talent that's going to come in NXT, because a lot of guys are going up, as we'll talk about in a few minutes with Raw. A lot of these guys that maybe we weren't even expecting, some of them, we had talked about it, but you were like, okay, these guys are up here. Wow, good for them. But there's room for a lot of growth, down there with who's going to be the next guy in line, behind Finn when he finally gets his call up. So
which could
that's
be soon,
something there.
from
Yeah,
reports we're hearing.
And, to touch on that other match real quick, the Finn and Samoa Joe match, I think going into it, I mean, me and you were on the same page. We thought Samoa Joe's winning. We thought Finn's going up. Like, there was no way around it. And I read that they went back and forth, between Joe winning and Finn winning. And they finally went with Finn winning. But then they said because Joe would be called up, to the main roster soon. As evidenced on Raw, he wasn't called up to the main roster. The crowd was all over Samoa Joe, and just the referees
speaking of the match,
because of
blood.
them stopping it every 2 seconds.
Did you watch the video of Linda and Stephanie, their reaction in the crowd when the crowd was chanting? Sorry for my language out there, and it's a fan of the show. When they were chanting FPG, but they were saying the actual FUCK bomb, and they just Linda was just like, "You got to be kidding me!" And I can't believe I'm gonna say this. I hope that's an eye opener for Linda and Stephanie. Like, okay, maybe this PG thing, maybe we should try to transition maybe to PG-13. And I mentioned this throughout the week. There's nothing wrong with doing from 8 to 10 PG, and then from 10 to 11, knock it up to PG-13. There's nothing wrong with that. They used to do that back in the day. I believe they used to have I believe at one point they had a PG hour and then a PG-13 hour, I believe. Didn't they at one point?
I think we used to do Raw's War, and then Raw, Raw, I think it was TV-14 it would switch to. I think they might have done something like that,
There's nothing wrong with doing something like that, because it goes to show you that some of these loyal fans that have been here since the 90s, we still want to see the hardcore action. And you could tell Joe didn't want any kind of treatment or nothing, because where Joe came from with TNA, they didn't have that. TNA, you bled, you kept going, and you know that for a fact. We're watching some of his matches there, some of the matches they had there. I do want to point out during that one match, is the security guy still dead? Is he alive yet? Has there been any?
Yeah, what happened there, man? Samoa Joe threw Finn right onto him and just knocked him out, and that guy
There was this scene in the beginning of the match where Samoa took Finn and threw him into the crowd onto a security guy, and when they put the camera down, security guy looked like he was laid out, wasn't prepared for it at all, and he just looked completely dead. He looked like a rag doll.
Oh my God! Did he probably got knocked out? I guess, huh?
He may have.
I don't know. They never went back over there either. Like, even if if it was part of the show, like they never went back that way. So that guy was asleep, I think.
That's funny.
But one other match. We won't touch too much. Aries won his debut. We all knew that. I don't think there was any doubt there. It was the match was nothing special. The other big match, and I thought was probably second to Nakamura and Zayn's match, was the American Alpha winning the tag titles against the Revival. Love that. I've been calling for that for a while. They were ready, willing, and able to win those titles, and it was proven at Takeover Dallas. And I was very happy to see it, and I think it was well deserved. And I can't wait to watch those guys.
Yep, I believe on the taping, one of the tapings they did at WrestleMania Assets, they actually defended the titles against Enzo and Cash. We'll get into that later. Obviously, if you watched Raw last week, Enzo and Cash didn't win that match at Assets, obviously. But I think American Alpha are going to get rolling, and I think sooner or later, I think you may see the Revival maybe move up to the main roster after their rematch if they lose it, because I think it's time to bring up another heel tag team, which they did do this past week on SmackDown. They've all brought up an NXT tag team, but I wouldn't mind seeing the Revivals up on the main roster as another heel. Obviously, with the New Day transitioning to, a face. You got the League of Nations, but I wouldn't mind seeing the Revivals up there with the kind of style they do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Revival would be a nice addition as well. I just hope that they make the right calls here with bringing the tag teams up, because you've seen the Ascension's kind of been relegated to nothing.
They're going here in NXT if you look at it.
Exactly. For the NXT guys, the Ascension, Enzo and Cass, like we said, we're going to talk about some more, and the Vader Villains. But
what a debut.
What do they do there? So let's just finish this last match that we didn't talk about at TakeOver, which is Asuka versus Bayley. Wasn't a bad match. I think after watching that Nakamura Zayn match,
it's hard to follow that.
It was hard. It was just really hard, It
wasn't fair.
And I was already looking forward to seeing Finn and Joe, because I was like, Joe's finally going to win the title. I was looking for, and then obviously it went otherwise. But
you got to think
Asuka winning that way was what kind of, I understand, like, it was that Bayley never gave up, but Bayley had just faced, Nia Jax at the last TakeOver, and Nia Jax, was doing everything she could, and Bayley was kicking out, and Bayley was getting at everything. And now Asuka, who hasn't lost, I agree, and they built her up to be good, comes in here and Bayley, gets choked out. And, that was it. Like, she passed out, and that's how she won. I think they could have did so much more there to finish that match, but Asuka becoming the champion, I get, because it looks as if Bayley's going to be the next one called up too. I feel like this Natalya Charlotte feud that they're showing on Raw right now is going to lead to Bayley's call up. So, what do you think about that with Asuka?
I agree with you. The ending, showed that Bayley, she never really lost. She got, technically, choked out. Really, we don't know what happens to Bayley from here. Does she get her rematch? Does Asuka move on to another feud? We really don't know what's going to happen. It's interesting to see what's going to happen in the next couple weeks of NXT. Obviously, the one this week will be another one from Access. Bayley, I believe, wasn't involved in that one. Neither was Balor or Joe. So we're really going to have to wait, not this week for NXT, but probably for the next couple weeks to see what's going to happen with the response from Bayley.
Absolutely. So that kind of covers TakeOver, I think, for the most part. To transition well, we'll talk about the other match on TakeOver that was supposed to take place that didn't take place, and then made a lot more sense to me because he ended up making his, and this will be the first of debuts we'll talk from Raw, which was Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews is supposed to have his match on TakeOver against Elias Sampson. I remember reading before that match got moved to a dark match for TakeOver. It wasn't gonna play on the live event, that night. So it was kind of a head scratcher to me, at least, to wonder, this guy's supposed to be a young, promising talent. Why is his match against, the Drifter, who I told you time and time again cannot stand that guy's character, but he's someone that they're pushing right now too. Why would they take that off the card? And then we find out Monday night, Sunday night going into Monday during the day, they're talking about it all over wrestling websites. Hey, expect Apollo to debut tonight. And we were like, what? And then it made so much more sense of why his match got scrapped. And you saw why this guy can be a huge, huge player
for the
WWE going forward. He's a dynamic powerhouse, and he can, he can do, he does the flips. He can do it all. And I think it's something that they don't have right now, hugely. There's some guys that can, do the power moves and do those other, flips and things. But a guy like Apollo Crews, you haven't seen something like that in a while. And I think he's going to be a huge talent. And I would not be surprised that within the next 5 years, if not sooner, that this guy's a world champion. Never mind just the champion.
2.0.
I think he's going to be a world champion.
Where did he come from? Did he just get come in through NXT and then he's moving up, or is he like? He
used to wrestle in. Sorry to cut you off, Paul. He used to wrestle in Georgia under Uhaa Nation was his name. That Triple H, I think, was the main guy that was had seen what he did there in Georgia, and they brought him to NXT, and he rebranded himself Apollo Crews, changed his name, and he was only, I don't even know if he was in NXT for a full year, to be honest with you. He got moved up pretty quick.
No, just remember his debut was at Brooklyn. London was his first match that was really live as a takeover. So really, he hasn't been there for a year.
That's what I'm saying. He might have been there like training, but he wasn't on TV probably for more than I doubt even a year. So
maybe 8 or 9 months. Just was he? Yeah. He wasn't part of Brooklyn yet, was he? Was he even there during Brooklyn? I don't think he was. I think he made his takeover.
Brooklyn.
Are you sure?
No, because he definitely won his Brooklyn. He definitely won his debut. London, he lost. Remember to Corbin.
That's right,
he didn't lose. Right. He didn't lose his debut. I don't remember for sure. I'd have to fact check that if you want to fact check that while we talk a little more about it. But huge talent. Loved every second of his debut. I think he's going to be great. Unfortunately, it came at Tyler Breeze's expense. But then I look at the numbers they're doing for him, and I just hope that no other of these NXT call-ups get the same kind of treatment that Breeze is getting despite what happened. So we'll then talk about the second Raw debut, but not debut on the main roster because he debuted at WrestleMania by becoming the Andre the Giant. And Matt, actually, you have something there before we move on?
Yeah, his first live televised debut was at NXT Takeover Brooklyn on August 22nd. So like you said, it's less than 7 or 6.
Was it against Breeze?
No, it was against Ty Dillinger.
Okay, yes. Justin Thunder Liger faced Breeze. I remember now. And Breeze lost that match too. Shocker.
So are there one last question, then I'll let you guys move on. So now with NXT, is that pretty much the road that every new person they start in NXT, like wherever they come from, but they get into NXT and they move up? But Or are there actually wrestlers who will start out at like main events or whatever, the main
Yeah,
show? Or...
Depending on the talent, like some of these guys have come, like not to take anything away from them that they're not credible, wrestlers from another promotion, but some of them, they start down in NXT. Like a lot of the guys that come from overseas, it's easier for them to start in NXT because they can learn like the American WWE style of wrestling. For someone like a Nakamura who's from Japan, like James says all the time and Matt was saying, they call him the King of Strong Style because they have a different kind of style of wrestling. They hit each other. And then like for the guys that wrestle in Mexico, they have like a lucha libre type style of wrestling. It's not what the WWE style is.
Right.
But there's a guy most recently that's a great example is AJ Styles. He came from TNA. He was in TNA, which is here. And, I don't know if you know a little bit about that at all, Paul. I know we talk about it every once in a while, but they're a pretty decent-sized company here in America. And then he was also in Japan, but since he was such like a main incredible star here, and he already pretty much knew his thing, he went right to the main roster. He debuted at the Royal Rumble on the main roster. He didn't go to NXT at all.
Gotcha.
So there's that.
So that seems like
just,
to be
like I said,
it's pretty normal when they start into NXT. That's usually the way it goes. They start out in NXT
Right.
and then move up. Yep. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, they try to at least, even if it's for, like I said, like a guy like Apollo Crews, he was moved up relatively quickly. So.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go right back to the Lone Wolf. Gets his win at a Mania we've talked about in the Memorial Battle Royal. Shows up on Raw, faces Dolph Ziggler. The match, ends in Corbin tells the referee, "This one's on you," because he counts him out, and Corbin proceeds to just, thrash Ziggler outside the ring and hits him.
Ziggler.
Oh, I saw that.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's a debut right there, especially on a guy who's a former heavyweight champ, too.
Exactly. Plants Ziggler with the end of days on the outside. And I like how they did that, where he, they're not doing that typical just, can't be stopped type thing. Like he was still destructive, and he was, whooping Ziggler's behind. But they did it where he's like, you know what, ref, this is on you. And I like that they did that to kind of try to, give him a different kind of character. Don't just make him out to be a monster heel like they do when all these big guys come up. They're like letting him know, like, you know what, don't blame me for me beating him up. It's your fault. You counted it out. I had this match won type thing. I like that they did that. I think Corbin's character could, I've heard him on the mic, and I think he actually cut some pretty good promos.
Yeah, he did. Down in NXT, he cut some great heel promos.
I'd like to see more from him. And like I said, we'll talk more about who my favorite debut was, but both of them right away, I was like, okay, this is great too. And then we'll talk about this was the third and final NXT debut on Raw. Matt, take it. I know you're stirring right there to talk about this one.
So you had the Dudleys, who just finished up a tables match with the Usos, obviously. Go to commercial break. You come back and you're like, why are the Dudleys still out here? I think Bubba states, who's going to make us leave and stuff like that. And then they play the Italian music, and here comes Enzo and Cash. You have Michael Cole, for some odd reason, saying, don't tell me they're here or something. And, the best part of that was when they walked right past the Dudleys, they didn't even look at them. They just walked right past the Dudleys like they didn't exist. Go in the ring. They did their whole shemale, how you doing? 7-foot tall Cash. Can't teach that. And then they talked about haters. They looked at Bubba, and the opening line they give to them was it, "You're so ugly, tears run down the back of your back to hide from your face."
Run down the back of your head to hide from your face. How you doing?
And then something happened that I've never seen before out of the Dudleys. Enzo made fun of Devon's lazy eye, and Devon went ballistic. I don't think I've ever heard or seen them gone that ballistic before. I think he said "son of a bitch" at least 3 times during that. And then they invited him to the ring. Bubba says, "Let's go," gets there, and then just, shoves him off and says, "We don't need you. You're young," and said they're all talk. But, man, they didn't have a match, but that promo was ridiculous. I thought it was my favorite debut of the night just because that promo, I think I'm seeing what the Dudleys are doing is, maybe they're helping out the younger talent. They did it with the Usos or whatnot, and I don't think the Dudleys, they're in that stage of their career where they probably don't mind that kind of role. And I think this will be great for Enzo and Cash, because I think they're great on the mic. Obviously, you saw what Enzo did. But just one thing about Devon, do you think that was scripted, or do you think maybe he just made up something he's doing long? Because Devon took a very serious offense to that. Otherwise, Devon's a very good actor.
I think it's a little of both. I think that, obviously it's something that could bother him. But I think he has an idea probably of what he's going to say. You know, Devon and Bubba, like you said, they're there to they want to elevate these younger guys. So I'm sure they said, hey, go out there. They know Enzo's one of the best on the mic in all of WWE, not just NXT, and all of WWE. So they probably said, go out there, get yourselves, this crowd's going to be raucous. They're going to be, rowdy.
Well, the crowd went
Say
crazy
something.
for them.
Exactly.
As soon as that music hit, the crowd just went ape shit.
Yeah, like when they were doing that.
I was happy at home watching. I'm sitting there. I'm like, fine. I was waiting all night. I'm like, when are these guys going to come out? I thought they were going to come out when the League of Nations, kicked out Wade Barrett. I was like, all right, maybe they'll come out and challenge them. And I'm like, okay, so it keeps going on. I'm like, when is this going to happen? And then it happened, and I didn't even think about it at the time when the Dudleys were doing that. It didn't even click in my head, and then there they were.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that my favorite chant that they did, I mean, he was just going, Big Cass will give you slop jalaps at IHOP. I mean, he was just going all over
like
them
a douche
the whole night. Yeah, you know what I mean? And my favorite chant of the night was Enzo was done talking and Cass was finally talking, and the crowd just started chanting it, "Go Enzo Amore," and he started dancing in the ring. Because, I mean, and that's an awesome debut for someone to hear the crowd get, behind you like that. And, I mean, they were just, like I said, going after veterans like the Dudleys.
That Vince was shocked by it. Vince was impressed with their debut. They said Vince wasn't very high on them at first. But when Vince heard that, Vince was shocked about the reaction they got. And they said Vince loved the promo. Vince didn't know what the promo was going to be. I don't think he was in the loop about what it was going to be. But for Vince to come out and say that was an impressive debut, that's saying something.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Raw, to me, just debuts alone was great.
Main event topped it off, though.
So before we go back to, talking about recapping Raw, let's talk about the one other NXT debut that happened, and that was on SmackDown, where the Vaudevillains debuted against the Lucha Dragons.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't really get to see much of them in NXT, so you're going to have to take this one away.
All right, so the Vaudevillains and the Lucha Dragons actually had a pretty good rivalry down in NXT, and they actually had a match at one of the takeovers when the Lucha Dragons were still the tag champs for the titles. And Vaudevillains, I like their style. It's very, like the whole black and white entrance when they come out, and they have like their, like circus acrobats, whatever, like it's, and they come out and they're like introducing 8, and then the lights shine on them. I like the whole entire entrance. Their whole entire characters are something fresh and different, and that's what I like about NXT is all these teams they're bringing up all bring something different to the table. Put your Dukes up when the Vaudevillains come out. It's just an awesome team. I'm really excited to see what they can bring because their style of tag team is different, and can't wait to see like these guys. Maybe at SummerSlam we have these multi-man match happen with all these different teams that are coming up.
TLC.
Enzo and Cass. You got the New Day might still be champions at that point. The Vaudevillains, and who knows, we might get another call up, like you said, the Revival, or maybe you throw in the Dudley Boyz since they're going to be doing all of this to work these guys to the next level.
Because they were getting kind of thin on people for the New Day. I mean, they went through the Usos so many times. They got done with the League of Nations, so it was really getting thin in the tag team division. So I think that's why you see, both of these teams come up at the same time because, they were getting thin. You got Kalisto doing his own thing with the U.S. title. The Luchas really aren't going to, I don't see them being a tag team that that much longer. I could see a feud between those two. So they were very thin, and I think they brought up the two right teams that needed to be brought up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Lucha Dragons, with all these teams getting brought up, and then you see, speaking of like returns coming, Primo and Epico, or I don't know if that's the names they're going to go with. They're going to come back, so who knows what they're going to come back with. Hopefully Carlito returns with them.
That'd be awesome.
That would be great. But we'll have to, stay tuned. Maybe they'll play, they might play another vignette tonight for those guys, seeing maybe when we expect them to come back. So there's that to look forward to. The other big return on Raw.
I forgot all about him.
Your boy Roman comes out earlier in the night, says, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a good guy. I'm the guy. I like the idea. Not
something
in that
different.
crowd.
Something
the crowd
different.
hates it. The crowd hated it. Which
they're
I knew was
trying
to
to
happen.
think of something for him.
Absolutely, I think that's what you have to do. But the closer they can, the teasing to where he's the the bad guy, the heel, the better for him. So, you get all this, and you start off. Jericho comes out, so I'm like, okay, Jericho's gonna come out. He won against AJ. This is gonna, Jericho's just gonna face Roman at the next pay-per-view, give Roman, a victory until the next, just kind of, it's a great victory for him to get his first title defense, against him. I thought, okay, that's a good idea. Then we get AJ to come out because Jericho's still running his mouth about AJ. AJ says, I know I lost, but I'm not going to just have one WrestleMania moment and lose and then think I'm just going to fade away. Then Owens comes out. He says, I'm ready for the next title. I don't need the Intercontinental title no more. Sami Zayn ruined it. Cue Sami Zayn. I know James was probably very happy seeing Sami Zayn come out there. And to be honest with you, I thought it was great after everything he did in NXT, like I said. And he got the call up that he had a chance to be in a, world title picture this soon already. And I think the crowd loved it because you're talking about four, even Jericho, 4 guys that fans love, whether they're bad or good.
James,
I'm sorry?
James went crazy.
Yeah. And, so I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be great. I'm like, is Shane going to make this a fatal 4-way? I'm like, all right. They end up making it. Owens ends up attacking Zayn, taking him out. Shane, as the matches, all 3 of them come down, they say Shane McMahon has ordered that this is still a fatal 4-way, and your 4th man is. Out comes Cesaro in a suit. I'll be honest with you, I looked at him real quick. I'm like, is this Jason Statham, the transporter? What's going on here? He rips the suit off. He's got his ring gear on. He's ready to go. The crowd loved it. The Cesaro section was in full effect. To have him return, and that match was great. And I'm glad that they didn't go the way and let him win in his debut, because I feel like that would have ruined a lot of the sizzle of his return. Because if he would have won that match and then lost to Roman in his first pay-per-view match, I feel like it kind of derailed any kind of further push to him being in a world title match and getting the world title in the next year or so. So we'll talk a little about that. How did you feel about Cesaro's return?
I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great. Like you say, he came out in the suit, and I'm like, what's he going to do? Just unbutton, and then he just flip it off like Party Boy does when he's in Jackass. Just flip it off and start dancing around. Lily was wearing the underwear, too, that Party Boy wears. But, it was a great debut. The match itself was great. I loved when he put all 3 in the corner and was going around doing his uppercuts to everyone. But to me, great to have him back. I agree with you, have him not winning. I think the right guy won that match. I don't know how you feel about that. Do you think the right guy won, or do you think no?
I love AJ Styles. I'm a big fan. I've liked him, since his TNA days. I don't know how I feel about that match. Unless they go there's 3 ways I've done this scenario in my head now. You think about it like this. Bulletproof, say they show up, everyone thinks they're coming with Finn, they end up showing up to help AJ. The fans are going to eat that up. Whether that's making AJ a heel or not, the fans are still going to cheer AJ getting help, regardless if Roman's the face or not. The only way that works to me to help Roman is if the Bullet Club comes out, they think that they're there to help AJ, and then they turn and help Roman. Even if Roman's not aligned with them, the Bullet Club now they're shown as heels, and Roman is a heel. Now, the Roman doesn't have to work with him, and then that could lead to Finn showing up, and that, AJ's feud ending up with Finn. AJ comes out there and says, why did you guys show up and, cost me the title? Whose idea was this? And then they say, don't worry, he'll be here soon. He'll be here soon. And then Finn debuts, as the Demon, and the Bulletproof is enabled. I don't like the idea of AJ turning heel in that match, because the only way you could turn him heel properly is he'd have to win the title. Like I said, but regardless of that, the fans are going to cheer that. The fans are going to cheer it because they've seen it before and they like that group together. So I don't see how we could possibly do that correctly without messing up Roman even more. I feel like the match should have been Roman and Jericho, because Jericho is a heel. Jericho could have got a lot of heel heat, and it's another huge match for Roman to win to secure his first title defense properly, and then maybe have that match with Styles. Don't get me wrong, I love that Styles won. It surprised me. I'm happy that Styles won. I just don't know how they're going to do it at Payback, because both of them are faces and AJ's just way over right now.
All right, 2 points before we head off for the night, because Raw just kicked off with Shane. We're going to get to him before we head off real quick. First off, I agree with everything you just said. The Bullet Club costing, AJ the match is a very interesting, idea that you come up with, and I kind of, listening to you really made me think about it. But I really also think that the Bullet Club is going to help AJ. Now, whether he gets a DQ or not is way to be seen. And I think you bring back Seth, reverse before we get to Seth. You have, Roman's like, I need, it's 3 of you guys against 1. You have Dean come out. and then you see them, they go up back and forth, 2-on-3, and then you bring Seth back, and here you go. You got Seth back, you got the Shield back, you got Roman still with the title, and I think with the Shield by his side, you may see the fans cheer for him a little bit more, because you've seen Roman and Seth on, outside of wrestling, they've been buddy-buddy, they've been shown on, social media, hanging out, the whole little brother, big brother thing. Almost seems like a little face turn for Seth. So I think that could be one way to bring back Seth is Shield versus Bullet Club. The fans are obviously going to be over on the Shield, and you don't have that much booing anymore for Roman. Could be one way you go, or the heel turn, like you said there. So, I mean, what do you mean, real quick, what do you think about that before we get to the next subject?
I think of that, and the other thing I just thought of in my head is, say, like you said, the Bullet Club comes down and costs AJ, the match, but they're there to help AJ, and then AJ kind of brushed it off, like, hey, I don't need your guys' help, like, this, and then, you could cut out and be like, this isn't Japan, I don't need you guys to come here. It could be something like that. He'd be like, you guys kicked me out. I know it might not have been in this company, but I remember what you guys did to me. You think you could just, throw me away like garbage and then come back here now and think that I'm your ally again. Something like that. I think that's about the only way you could do that and have, AJ not take the pin and the Bullet Club, have a good debut, because then people can be like, okay, what just happened there? You're expecting them to help AJ, and then they kind of cost him, and AJ don't seem too happy, other than, like we said, those other scenarios. But I'm really excited to see. I know that they're backstage again, Gallows and
yes, 2 weeks in a row now.
I hope they don't show up on Raw unless it's like a huge, like the storyline has to make so much sense to me. But now that they announced AJ in this match, I feel like unless it's Finn debuting, but what would be the purpose of Finn debuting since we already know that AJ and Roman are having a title match? So
unless you have Finn come down in like a Wyatt family type way, and Finn, raises his hand up and they go in and get him like a Wyatt family type way, and there's Finn as the leader. But let's move on from that real quick before we head off for Raw.
Yeah.
Shane starting. Was that match at Hell in a Cell? Did that match not mean anything anymore? I mean, they just gave him control of Raw. So what the hell was the point of that? Just to watch him fall off a cage on a table? That's the only thing right now that's pissing me off. I love Shane in charge. I think it's awesome. I think what he did last week was great, the whole storyline. But now I feel like that match at Mania, the only thing they were wrestling for now was for Taker's career.
What did they say? I was reading something that they were saying that there was enough fan support saying that they wanted Shane back to take over.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of fans are loving Shane back. And let's be honest, I think fans rather see Shane on TV than Triple H and Stephanie because, like they said, they're thinking about getting rid of the Authority storyline, and that storyline was getting old pretty quick. I'm sure you can agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's run its course. I think that it did what it had to do. It would have been even better if it would have sent off with Rollins, having his match against Triple H, and that's how the Authority left. But I don't know how they're going to go about it, to be honest with you. What they're going to do exactly with that. I like Shane being in charge. I agree with you on that. But how are they going to go with, Triple H lost his match? Is Vince now going to be like, you know what, Triple H let me down, and so did Stephanie, so that's why I reinvested my, thing in Shane. Are they going to make Shane a heel? Or is it just going to be Vince is going to be like, you know what, he's realizing, and then Shane's going to be like, listen, I don't need your handouts. You're doing this because you're seeing the business is profiting, something like that. Because, like you said, all the fans are behind him. Everyone's like, please, I want to see this match. I need to see the outpour of everything happening. So how are they going to, kind of gauge that interest in that? But I'd like to see more tonight. Hopefully Shane comes out and addresses the crowd, and maybe we have some kind of interaction if Triple H and Stephanie are there, or Vince coming out and trying to, pander to Shane all of a sudden and be like, my son's Shane. And then Vince, Shane's like, no. But the other thing I'm reading, too, about The Undertaker with that match, like you said, is supposedly that's it. Supposedly he's saying that's it. He got removed off the European tour that he was supposed to go on. He got taken off all the events.
Taker to go out. That was not the match I wanted. Oh, by the way, real quick, before we cut that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Styles versus Sami Zayn has been booked for tonight.
And if Zayn wins, he's the #1 contender.
Is that what it said?
That's what I'm getting here from James on the information while he's watching Raw. So if that's the case, do Gallows and Anderson show up tonight and cost AJ the match?
I didn't even think about. Oh wow, God.
That's a way to. It's a way. That's another way, organically to work them in, leading to Finn and AJ having a match at Payback because he wants Payback on the Bullet Club.
I have a feeling like I'm gonna see there's gonna be more than just one person versus Roman now at Payback with all these people keep on coming out. If you switch to Zayn, then you could switch to Kevin. I have a feeling we're heading for either a fatal 4-way or a triple threat at Payback.
My thing is, and it's no knock on Sami Zayn, He has been in an NXT match. He lost. He was in and this is booking. This is not Zayn. Obviously, we know what kind of performer he is.
I totally agree with you.
He was in an Intercontinental ladder match. He lost. So now, if he does beat AJ somehow, we're supposed to believe that he's supposed to go for the top prize in all of sports entertainment. Never mind just the NXT WWE, grouping. He's going to be in that match at a pay-per-view and a one-on-one match against Roman. Like I said, if they do a triple threat match, if it's to add the Bullet Club, I feel like AJ should still be in the match. Somehow, this way it adds intrigue. Zayn's definitely a main event guy. He's going to be there. So I'm wondering to see how they're going to, build that. So it's definitely something I'm looking forward to tonight. And I'm sure a lot of fans, now that they hear this, are going to be interested in watching that Sami Zayn match against AJ Styles, because regardless of what happens, it's going to be a heck of a match.
Right.
So
I think can't think of anything else
Paul?
to talk about. Paul, you got any questions for us?
No, that's it. I'm going to see if I can catch some tonight, too.
Real quick before we get to Paul Shamil. Tomorrow night.
I was going to do it.
You're going to do it? Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to do it.
Go ahead.
He jumped the gun there, but I wanted to say tomorrow night, please watch our good friend here and my co-host, Matt, and Shipe Sports Talk tomorrow night at 6:30. Is that right, Matt?
Yes.
6:30?
No,
Okay.
6:45, 7 o'clock.
6:45 to 7. It'll be in that 15-minute window. They are going to be live, and one of the big things they're going to be talking about is the NHL playoffs, especially Matt's Washington Capitals, and their special guest tomorrow, Mr. Bojo. For you NHL YouTubers that know about Bojo Co., he will be on the show tomorrow talking about his Philadelphia Flyers. I've gotten a chance to talk to him a little bit about the series, and I know how passionate he is about the Flyers and about hockey altogether. So it's definitely not a show you're going to want to miss. There's going to be a lot of insight that you're going to want to see there between the two of them, especially when they're talking about each other's teams' passion. It's you're definitely going to see some passion in that conversation, because the two of them are going to get very animated about the how they feel their team's going to have the best interest to win, or maybe one of them surprises you and thinks the other team's going to win. So you'll definitely have to tune in to that tomorrow. And with that, I will hand it over to you, Paul.
Real quick, right after Paul does his Shamil, right on Raw right now, we have Cesaro versus Kevin Owens.
Awesome.
Oh, time to go then. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks, guys, for the breakdown of the wrestling news for this past week. So if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, the like button. Subscribe, follow us on Twitter. It's at OT3 Podcast 1. Send us emails at OT3podcast@gmail.com, and friend us, like us on Facebook, which is Facebook.com/Off the Top Turnbuckle. See, because that's off OT3, Off the Top Turnbuckle. That's 3 T's, right? Anyway. So yeah, that's right. So again, yeah, if by following us, you're supporting the show tremendously. That helps us out. Communicate with us. Let us know your favorite matches of Raw tonight. Let us know what you're looking forward to. Send us an email and just let us know how we're doing. Ask us questions, and we'll be sure to address those live on the air. Maybe even give you a shout out, right? I guess so.
Absolutely, yes.
And Cesaro came out to the same thing he did last week, by the way, so that must be his new thing.
Okay.
Jason Statham / James Bond.
Wow. All right, well, I guess that does it for my spiel. Thanks again, guys. And I guess, Mr. Anthony, you take us out.
I will take us out, absolutely. I want to say thank you again to all of our viewers, and for if you were watching live with us, I know James was one of the people watching live with us and chatting with us. I do want to say thanks for watching again. We hope you enjoy Monday Night Raw. And for myself, Matt, and Paul, we appreciate all the likes and shares that you guys have been giving us. And we'll see you again next Monday here on OT3. And again, like I said, tomorrow, 6:45 to 7. Please watch Shipe Sports Talk. It's going to be a great episode. You never know what's going to happen on that show.
That's right.
So
Awesome.
I will tell you to enjoy Raw if I haven't already said it, and hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you again next Monday at 7:30.
Great. See you guys.
See you later, everyone.
Have a good night.
Have a good one.
Too sweet.